Yeah, when you ask for the budget and they say, well, it depends on how much I can get. And I'm not, I don't want to beat them over the head, but I was thinking, should I just say, well, should I start looking at $400 a month? Well, how much can you get for that? So I haven't, I mean,
Yeah, and that's good, right? Because I run into that. I think we all do. But one of the things that works really well is sometimes people just want to hear a number, and you really have to listen to them. You have to really get good with knowing, is this just somebody who has literally never talked to anybody, or is just one of those tire kickers? You can make that choice. As you start to get more and more of those people, you'll start to figure them out. But you have to ask the right questions to start knowing who you've got. So when it comes to budget, so James, I totally understand. I want you to know that you're not going to change the price. I'm not going to change the price. James, you told me you're 53. You cannot turn back the clock. So there's nobody here, and I don't. By the way, I don't know if James is 53. I just threw out a number. um, but when it comes down to it, neither one of us can turn back the clock. So you're always going to be that age. You're never going to get any younger. We're never going to be able to get a cheaper rate based on your age. Okay. So all life insurance is based on age and health. We're not going to fix that. But when it comes to getting insurance, as I mentioned before, and obviously if you follow the script and you tell them, look, when it comes down to budget, if you buy too much insurance, you can't go backwards. So if you can't afford it and you have to let it go, then you're starting over from scratch. And then just reaffirm that. So again, it's okay. So James, whenever it comes down to it, you're 53, and there's nothing you and I can do to turn back the clock. So the good news is we can't change your rate and make it something super expensive, but we also can't make it super cheap. So the rate is gonna be what it is. If you buy too much insurance, you can't turn back. You can't go back on that. So that's the whole purpose of getting a budget. So you feel like you're somewhere around, and then that's where you say, so do you feel like you're somewhere around the $75 range?
I have
So
another way of doing it. I,
yeah,
I, it's in the script. I say, okay, well, since I have to take a shot in the dark, I'm going to start somewhere by asking you, do you want a cremation or a burial? And they'll say a burial. I say, well, okay, burials run between 15 to 20,000 these days. I'm going to go look for a quote for that amount, and you tell me. I'm going to give you three quotes, but you tell me once you hear those numbers if you want higher or lower quotes. Because, like I said, I'm taking a shot in the dark since we don't know what your budget is. Okay? They're like, okay, that works, and I just go for that. And then they tell me higher or lower. It always works for me.
yeah, yeah, and that definitely. Um, so the wouldn't say I want to argue with that, but the the biggest the I guess could start with that. I don't know how else to put it. Is if you don't have a budget, if they don't know something, if they can't actually give you a dollar amount, then how are they going to know whenever they get the quote?
Well, these people, they're usually the ones that they want to make it fit into their budget. Like I was kind of one of those people whenever I was like, well, how much does this cost? And they're like, well, how much can you afford? I'm like, no, just tell me how much it's gonna cost because I'm gonna make it work the way I want to make it
Yeah,
work. Like I need all that information to make a decision. And we do have some people out there that can make a decision on their own and they just want a lot of information.
yeah. And again, that's why I say I don't want to say that I'm actually disagreeing. I because everybody's got a way of doing stuff. There's definitely no. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are definite wrong ways of doing certain things because I've watched people get pretty large chargebacks, over some of their tactics. But it's not something I would be. It's not something I would raise an alarm, with how you're doing it. Because again, if you're following the script, you shouldn't be getting it often. Based on the way you're talking, if you're getting the real question would be, James, are you getting this all the time? Or is it something that when it comes up, you're just struggling with it?
Yeah, no, when it comes up, I'm like, it just makes me mad because I want to tell them no. My first gut instinct is that's not the way it works. It works the other way around, but
Yeah.
got to be more diplomatic about it.
Yeah. No.
Usually at that point they want $100,000, like they're 72 with COPD and their budget is $50. Sound familiar?
I tend to lean more towards what Susan says when I do my spiel over the phone. But and then if like you start saying numbers that are unrealistic to them, I mean, it's kind of an uphill battle the entire way after that. And I mean, they weren't really serious or, a customer I would say that we want to begin with,
Yeah.
That's just kind of my thought on it.
Yeah,
it's an uphill battle, like you said, from there on in.
Yeah. And again, that's why I say this is what I love about objection handling and going through these type details is everybody's kind of got their own way. As long as, as long as we're not like bum rushing people into an application and stuff like that, there's not necessarily a wrong or right way to do it. I will say that a lot of what I do is listening. I will oftentimes take a very shortcut one way or the other because I've listened by listening to the client. Like if they're, for example, if I've got somebody who's just been rude and obstinate about all the questions that I'm asking, and then they're like, well, I want to know the price. You know what I'll do is I'll say, look, if all you want to know the price, I'm not a quote machine. So you'll have to go online and find a quote if you want. Right. Like I've literally told people that. But like I said, I've also been a little more diplomatic about it and approached it. Well, I've also, look, if they've been halfway decent and they just want a quote, I'll throw them out there. I won't even ask them, do you want a burial? I'll just be like, so 20,000 is X amount, and just throw a number out there. And like Susan said, is that within your budget? And I have sold the occasional client like that. So all tactics work some of the time, right?
Some of the time, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But really actively listening, truly listening to your client is how you'll be able to know which way you should go. So, especially for all the new guys, make sure you're listening very closely to your client and what they're saying, because sometimes they're already telling you that they're a suspect and you don't even need to get to that point. So anybody else got any objections that they've struggled with or? No. Sam, you got an objection?
Hi. I've thought about potentially reviewing this call because I just handled that objection with this guy, but I handled it differently than what I normally would with the guy from New Jersey. He was very staunch about not wanting to give me numbers and started giving me an analogy of, well, if I go to a dealership, then, and I tell them I can afford $500 a month and they're going to give me any car for $500 a month type situation. And eventually it got to a point where I was like, just telling me that you want, 35, or that you just want me to show you numbers for 35,000, 20,000 and 10,000. I mean, without knowing more about you and without knowing a budget, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. We can't just narrow things down by that. I'm just trying to find what fits for you, because I can show you anywhere from $1,000 to $1 million. But if it doesn't make sense, then there's no point in us talking about it. And eventually he still was staunch about telling me he wanted me to show him those three prices. So I just started off with 35,000 and I said, okay, 35,000 at your age, height, and weight, it starts off at almost $200 a month. We're looking at $184 a month. And he's like, oh, I definitely can't afford that. I said, okay, then what do you want to see? Where are we going with this? And eventually I got him to open up. like I said, I can potentially play it, but
Yeah, maybe we'll try that on another meeting, or maybe if you've got a recording, we just put it we can put it on the YouTubes.
I think it's a cry for help. If they don't know, their budget, I think it's our opportunity to educate them as much as possible so they can make a sound decision, because apparently they need some guidance.
yeah, that's the Southern hospitality. When you get into the Northern charm, a lot of times the Northern charm, you end up finding the guys that they think they know it all. Like he was trying to educate me on how life insurance works and how underwriting works and how this works and how that works. And okay, pretty sure that I'm the licensed agent, not the other way around. And so in the back of my mind, that's what I kept thinking. But at the same time, I thought, I need to try to get on the same level as this guy. Like he thinks he's here and thinks I'm here, and that he needs to know that, yeah, you may have flown a plane, but you don't know shit about insurance, buddy. So
yeah, I got a guy now that, I mean, it's a mess. He wants to lower his premium and his coverage, and so now I'm back and forth with the company, and I had to overnight this thing to him so he can sign it and send it back overnight, and the post office didn't get it to him in time, and so yeah, it's better if they, find a budget that they can deal with from the jump, so you don't have to go through this kind of crap.
Yeah, without a doubt. And no matter how you guys handle it, I should add to this. No matter how you handle it, no matter where what you say in order to get the sale, definitely reaffirm their choice. You should always reaffirm their choice. So, Ryan, whenever it comes down to it, this absolutely makes sense to you. This is not going to take any food off the table. You feel like you're always going to be able to afford this. Your table leg breaks, and you need to get a new table. This isn't going to keep you from being able to pay for your insurance, right? Those type things. Make sure that they can absolutely keep it, that it's that much of a priority for them to be able, that they want to be sure to keep it. So,
because to piggyback, man, a lot of these people, like in a situation where an extra doctor visit or an extra medicine can throw the whole budget off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's exactly, I mean, 1,000% why I learned. It took me about 6-8 months to learn I've got to stop pushing and selling these people for the max plan, because there's plenty of companies out there, plenty of agencies that's exactly their goal, is to sell them as much insurance as possible. Now, the rock and hard place that we're in is where that really bites us is now we just got a loan for $1,000. So now we got to pay that back. So that's the real trick, is where I learned, look, you've got to, and I should also say that I've been in people's homes and I've seen, it's amazing when you're over the phone, you don't see how these people live. And Sam, Luke, and I don't know how many other people who've been in homes, but those of you who have actually been in home and sat with some of these people, you've seen the way these people live. It's probably why I didn't do so well in home, is I looked at them like, how in the hell are you going to afford insurance? Or why would you want to buy insurance? Your couch is missing a leg and you're leaning to the side and now your head is stuck like this.